Today, we are on Conversation 9 of our 12 Conversation series that focus on getting us prepared to be able to have the conversations that help us to know God and to share that knowledge with other people. And it's great to hear that some of you have been sharing in those conversations, and some of you have been taking the books. There are more books available. If you'd like to get one, you can get them at the Information Center, shaking those and sharing them with your friends and having conversations about that. The conversations are happening in groups and in homes to talk about this whole idea of how well are we getting to know God and taking what we know and letting other people know about that. Because I really do think it's important. It really is important to know what you believe. As a matter of fact, Peter said it this way in 1 Peter 3:15. He said, "But in your hearts set apart Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have. But do this with gentleness and respect." We really need to know why we believe what we believe. It's really important. And then to be able to take that and communicate it with other people. I really believe that to be able to communicate and articulate what we believe helps it to validate our faith and to solidify our faith. When you have to speak it, if it just spins around in your head and you think about it, there's a lot of things, and you're not accountable for the thoughts that go around in your... I mean, you are accountable, but nobody else is going to hold you accountable for those thoughts spinning around your head. When it comes out of your mouth and somebody hears what you say, put some responsibility behind it, the accountability behind it. You believe that? Really? And so I'm just saying, but to be able to articulate what you believe helps to make that very real. When Jesus was asked, what's the greatest commandment by one of the teachers of the law? Because, they were all back in those days, the teachers of the law were all about the law. They had taken the religious system and made it all about what you do and how you did it and the law. And so he was trying to trip up Jesus with his question, and Jesus said, hey, I'll tell you what is the greatest thing. And what did he say? The greatest commandment is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. And I'm going to tell you what, there's one more part of that. That's to love your neighbor as yourself. He said, and this sums up all the laws. Well, these conversations actually have done the same thing. These conversations are focused on helping us to love God and to love others. And you'll see those words as you leave this building on the wall. That's something that's very important to us here. That we love God, that we love people, and that we help everybody do the same thing. We all need to be in on this together. That's kind of our mission. And not just our mission, but churches all around this country, their mission is to let people know, to love God, to love people, and to help people do the same. And so the way we want to do that is by helping each other, because we really need each other, helping each other know what it means to pursue God's purpose. And not just once or twice, but every day. We want to be able to help you and want you to help us so that we can do what God wants us to do every day. Not just once a week, but every day. So the goal is to help people understand this, and so that we can show people that we really love God. So the topic for today that I want to kind of focus in on is the idea of connecting with others. We've been talking about getting connected with God and what that looks like and what that means, what you need to do to abide, to know the basics. Because what you believe really determines how you act and how you live. But to do that for yourself, but then also how do you love people and connect with other people? When Jesus was leaving, his final words to his disciples, his followers, were wrapped up like this. And Mark recorded this in his writings about Jesus. He said in Mark 16:15, he says, he said to them, talking about Jesus said to them, go into all the world and preach the gospel to all creation. The gospel there means good news. This is the good news of Jesus. Go into all the world and preach the gospel to all creation. Matthew recorded it this way. Matthew, another follower of Jesus who wrote one of the books that kind of focus on the life of Jesus, said it this way at the end. In chapter 28, verses 18 to 20, he said, then Jesus came to them and said, all authority on heaven and earth has been given to me. Don't ever underestimate the power of Jesus. All authority under heaven and earth has been given to me. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you, and surely I am with you to the very end of the age. He promises his power, he promises his presence, and he says, go. And it's a good thing for us, sitting in this room, and the people that we know, that they did that over 2,000 years ago. That they took this message of Jesus serious and they passed it on. And they passed it on. And it's been passed on all these centuries until now that we actually get to benefit and be blessed by the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ. So I guess my question is, how are you doing on passing it on? Who are you talking to about your faith in Jesus Christ? Or are you? You know, we tend, and believe me, I'm on the receiving end. I really never wanted to be a minister for this one reason. I didn't know if I could talk to you about this. But I made it much harder than it needed to be. It's not about the clergy doing all the talking or the ministers doing all the talking. As a matter of fact, if you read the book of Hebrews, the writer made it very clear that we are all ministers. We're all ministers. That's how Jesus sees us. If you've been changed, if you've been blessed by your relationship with Jesus Christ, then it's really up to you to let people know what that looks like and what that means. It should be natural. Why wouldn't you want to share what has changed your life, given you hope? Lifeway Resources in Nashville did a study. They polled over 1,400 people who identified themselves as they did not go to any kind of religious service anywhere. They called them the unchurched people. They didn't go to church anywhere. They called them unchurched. And this is some of the things they found in this survey. 71% of the people who responded said that they believe that Jesus makes a positive difference in a person's life. These are unchurched people saying they believe that Jesus did make a positive influence on people's lives. They observed that. They noticed that. But 72%, which is also said, they believe that the church is full of hypocrites. Because what they see doesn't always match up with what they've heard about the good news of Jesus Christ in their world. But despite their negative opinions about the institutionalized church, most unchurched people, believe it or not, were open to discussing spiritual matters with a friend. 78% of those surveyed said that they would be willing to listen to someone talk about their Christian beliefs. That percentage rose to 89% among people 18 to 29 years old. It's interesting. Only 28% of the adults 30 and older said that they think Christians they know talk too much about their faith. And 78% of the adults 30 and older said they would enjoy an honest conversation with a friend about religious and spiritual beliefs, even if they disagreed with that friend. One of the interesting discoveries I thought from the survey was that if the only benefit from being a Christian was getting to go to heaven, most unchurched people don't care. That's not on their radar. They don't really, look at that as something that's important to them, whether you go to heaven or not. That's not. But what they want to talk about is that the survey indicated that it's best for Christians to share and talk about their relationship, how their relationship with Jesus affects them day to day, and the benefits of being a part of a church. That's what intrigued them. That was what's interesting to them. The survey also revealed that when it comes to church invitations, the personal touch works best. 51% of those surveyed said a personal invitation from a family member or a friend would be the best way to get them to consider going to a service. Where TV commercials, postcards, people knocking on their door, Facebook announcements, that wasn't very high percentage on those at all. It was a personal invitation from a friend or a family member. 89% of the unchurched people say that they have friends, close friends, who they know are Christians. They didn't feel like they had to search very far to find somebody who they knew went to church. They knew that. But the question is, are they having the conversations? They know that you're a believer, so to speak, but is it ever come up? The article suggests that Christians need to be proactive because unchurched people are really unlikely to bring up the subject. So it really is a matter of those who believe it to start those conversations. So the conclusion of those who took the survey, where the people are open to spiritual conversations and open to hearing about genuine faith, to know that there is a God that still is at work and He is using you to spread the good news in an increasingly confused world. I would think that just kind of hearing that, it should compel us to want to have those conversations with people, to not be so afraid, and to be able to look at people and say, be able to tell, is this a place we can go? And that's what we're going to look at. I found a couple of passages of scriptures that I wanted to go over with you today and share some insights from that I think that helps me anyway to kind of think about this whole idea of making my faith real and making it attractive to someone else. First of all, I want us to look in the book of Romans. If you have your Bibles, you can turn to the book of Romans. It's chapter 10, and we're going to start at verse 9. Paul, who wrote this letter to the Christians at Rome, he was a man who was against God, or he was all for God, but he was against Jesus. And he was killing people who were following Jesus because he thought he was doing the right thing for God. And on the road to Damascus, where he had heard there were more Christ followers, and he was given permission to go hunt them down, he had an encounter with Jesus on the road, a blinding light. And Jesus spoke to him in a very real way, and it changed his life. Jesus changed his life. So when he became an enemy of the cross, he now became a champion of the cross of Jesus. And he wrote most of what we know about how Jesus really and how wants us to live our lives. So here we are in chapter 10. I want to read these verses and then think about it. If you declare with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. For it is with your heart that you believe and are justified. It is with your mouth that you profess your faith and are saved. And as the scriptures say, anyone who believes in him will never be put to shame. For there is no difference between Jew and Gentile. The same Lord is the Lord of all and richly blesses all who call on him. Everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. How then can they call on the one that they have not believed in? And how can they believe in the one of whom they have not heard? And how can they hear without someone preaching to them? And how can anyone preach unless they are sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news. Let that sink in just a minute. Think about that and think about these insights that I pulled from this. First of all, what you believe about Jesus matters. What you believe really does affect how you live, but what you believe about Jesus matters. Do you believe that Jesus is the Lord? Do you believe that he died and he rose again? He conquered death, and through him we can be with God forever. Also, this tells me that confessing is expected. To be able to say what you believe, again, is what we need to be able to do. If you can't say it, do you really believe it? And it also tells me that the good news is really for everyone. How many times he said all there? He actually mentions the idea of the Jew and the Gentile, and pretty much that is everybody. If you were not a Jew, you were a Gentile. He's saying this news is for everyone. There isn't just a select group of people who are privileged to get this. This is for everyone. And he also makes it really clear that you can't know if you never hear. If you have never heard, how are you going to know? So it's up to the people who know to let the people who don't know. I know he uses the word preacher. Once again, that's one of those times where it says preach. So you think, oh, that's the preacher's job. No, it's up to all of us to let people know. Preach is the same word for proclaim. We are to proclaim the goodness of God, how we live. And then he wraps it up by saying, and to share the good news, it is a beautiful thing. Not just for the person who you share it with, but for you. To share the good news. Jesus was the greatest leader who ever lived. And he did not give us a mission without providing the insight on how to carry it out. Another passage I want us to look at is in Luke chapter 10. So if you want to turn there, Luke chapter 10, we'll read verses 1 through 12, and then I'm going to grab 16 out of there and wrap it up. So please listen. This is when Jesus had sent 72 of his disciples. He already sent 12 out. He's done some pretty incredible things up to this point. He's raised the widow's son. He's brought a little dead girl back to life. He's calmed the storm. He's taught the parable of the sower. He's all this incredible teaching. He's done these incredible things. And these people have seen it. And he says, now I want you to go tell people I'm getting ready to come to their town. The good news is coming. The kingdom is near. Go get people ready. So he sent them out. So here's what he said. And after this, the Lord appointed 72 others and sent them 2 by 2 ahead of him to every town and place where he was about to go. And he told them, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into the harvest field, his harvest field. Go, I'm sending you out like lambs among wolves. Do not take a purse or a bag or sandals. Do not greet anyone on the road. When you enter a house, first say, peace to this house. If someone who promotes peace is there, your peace will rest on them. If not, it will return to you. Stay there, eating and drinking whatever they give you, for the worker deserves his wages. Do not move around from house to house. When you enter a town and are welcomed, eat what is offered to you, heal the sick who are there, and tell them the kingdom of God has come near to you. But when you enter a town and are not welcome, go into its streets and say, even the dust from your town we will wipe from our feet as a warning to you. Yet be sure of this, the kingdom of God is near. The kingdom of God is near. And I tell you, it will be more bearable on that day for Sodom than for that town. Then he goes on to say, whoever listens to you listens to me. Whoever rejects you rejects me. But whoever rejects me rejects him who sent me. So here's what I pull from those verses that I want you to think about. First of all, there is value in teamwork. He sent them out 2 by 2. Yes, you need to know what you believe, and there's the individual side of that. But when it comes to sharing the good news of the gospel, it works best as a team. We are a team. We are a family. And today we have some of our extended family and team. We have some of our mission partners from right around the city and that help us. It's just best to do this together. You're going to get to meet them in just a few minutes. But it's best when we do this together, when we help each other, encourage one another to share the good news. The next thing I want you to think about is we need to see people the way that Jesus sees people. Jesus, in this case, he said, I want you to look out to the harvest fields. They are white. They're ready. They're ripe. They're ready to go. When Jesus sees people, he sees their condition. He sees the condition of their heart and who they are. A few weeks ago, I got to go home to where I grew up back in Iowa. And it was harvest time. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and I just took a week, and I went back and spent that. My brother still farms the old family farm. My mom is still living on the family farm. This is my brother's combine. I got to run that combine for 5 days. My sister-in-law thought I was nuts. Why are you taking your vacation to come here and work? I said, this really isn't work. When you don't have to do it, it's some reason it's not work, right? When I was a kid and you had to do it, it was different. It was work. But it was I really had a good time running that combine down through the cornfields. It's a lot different than when I grew up. This is my mom. If you never, this is the cab. I mean, this is a long way from when my grandfather, and Joe, you would remember this, had the wagon pulled by the horses and threw it in the corn. And my dad had the tractor you pulled into the corn picker, and you were out there in the elements. Air-conditioned cab, radio, stereo. It has a GPS. I could tell you right where we were in every field. And it's amazing. And this is an old combine. He says there's even new ones that are even more amazing. But this is pretty cool. See that? I don't know if you can see the little, I have my hand on a joystick. That's what runs that big machine. Forward, backward, push the button, the thing goes up. Push the button, the thing turns on. It was pretty amazing. It was pretty cool. I enjoyed it. But this was my view for 5 days, running down the fields of corn. And one day, I got to thinking about it, and I just looked at I was thinking about running down the corn. I knew I had this coming up, the idea of the Lord of the harvest, and it just kind of hit me. You have to know when the corn is ready, when the conditions are right. And that's how Jesus saw people. He knew the conditions are right. If you run that combine through that field too early, the corn's too wet, it will mold, it won't be good, it's just not right. You'll get docked. When you take it to the elevator, they say, no, it's too wet, we won't give you as much money. If you let it sit in the field too long, it'll start dropping on the ground, you will lose your crops. There's a joke. Back in my home, if this is on recording, I should say this, but one of the neighbors, I'll just say one of the neighbors, he's always the last one in the fields. So one of the other neighbors, his goal is to get his crops done before that guy even gets in the fields. It's kind of one of those little things. But if you wait too long, you lose crop. Jesus looks at people and says, the conditions are right. We need to be able to look at people and be able to know the conditions are right. We need to see people not as just going through life with the mask that they have on, with the things that we all wear. Things are all, everything's wonderful. But we need to see people in a way that we know that the good news is going to help them. That's what Jesus could see. People need the good news, and Jesus can see when the conditions were right. We need to be intentional. It says go. Sometimes I think, well, maybe it'll happen. Maybe it'll happen. No, Jesus said go. I'm sending you. Go. Make it intentional. Make an effort to do this. Go with purpose. It also says we need to be prepared for trouble. I'm sending you out like sheep among wolves. That's not a pleasant combination for the sheep. Jesus knows there could be trouble, but he also knows that he is with them. He was that they would be able to survive because of what he meant to them. He also said to keep it simple. Don't pack a lot of things. Don't get too overly thoughtful about all this stuff. Just go and do it. Keep it simple. It's so important. Pack light. And he also says avoid distractions. The idea of not being friendly on the road is just the idea of you don't have to get on down the road. Get down to the village. I'm sending you to the village. Don't stop along the way and get distracted. Which makes me think of that the Star Wars movie. The number, it's 4 in the series, one of the better ones, and where they're trying to destroy the Death Star, and the last pilot that has a shot, that has a missile, and it's, you know what they're saying? Stay on target, stay on target. That's what I think of. We need to stay on target. We allow ourselves to get so distracted with everything else. Well, I need to do this first. I need to go do this first. Stay on target. Don't get distracted. And he says here, and I want you to think about this, he looked for people of peace. Go in there and say, hey, peace be with you. And if that peace is returned to you, then that's where you're supposed to be. We need to look for people of peace in our passing relationships, the people we just come in contact every day. You might be surprised at who may be just right to have a conversation about the good news of Jesus. In our permanent relationships, the people around all the time, we need to always be focused on, are they a person of peace? Is this something that they're ready to have this conversation? We need to be a person of peace, though, before we can really look for the people of peace. Are you a person of peace? Has Jesus given you the peace that you need to be able to just communicate that and share that? And you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be faithful to Jesus. And if they're not a person of peace, Jesus said, move on. Move on. Don't stay there. Don't get yourself hung up on this person. He says, as a matter of fact, it's shake the dust from your feet and move on. And we need to remember that I threw that last verse because it really is all about Jesus. Don't take this so personal. It's not a rejection of you. It's not. We get too wrapped up in what people think about us in these situations, and really, Jesus is saying it's really about me. Don't be so focused on you, be focused on him. And it says there at the end that when they came back, they were so excited and they said, incredible things happened, Jesus. And he said, I saw Satan fall from heaven in that time. And he said, but don't celebrate that so much, because he was warning them about pride. He said, just be thankful your name is written in the book of life. Don't get so worried about this isn't about you. This is about him. We need to be people of peace. We need to let the peace of Christ dwell in us. And we need to be on the lookout for people of peace so that we can introduce them to the Prince of Peace.